Hello everyone and welcome to 22nd episode of Personal Development Training Series. My name is Mohammad Reza Fatih and I'm a life coach. What we do in life echoes in eternity. I guarantee you that your life is going to be divided to before and after personal development training. This episode is about strengths and weaknesses, something that we hear all the time, and we hear this, people say, work on your weaknesses, work on your strengths. So let's talk about them. What do they really mean? So let's begin. Let me start with something simple. If I ask you right now, what's one of your strengths? You probably wouldn't even hesitate. You'd say, I'm responsible, persistent, creative, reliable, or something like, when I start something, I finish it. Those answers come fast. You've said them in interviews, you've written them on resumes, you think about them all the time, you've repeated them enough that they almost feel automatic. But now, pause for a second. If I ask you, what's your biggest weakness? Notice what happens inside? There's usually a small silence. Your mind starts scanning. What can I say that sounds honest but not damaging? What can I admit without looking incompetent? What sounds vulnerable but still impressive? A lot of people say things like this: I'm a perfectionist, I care too much, I work too hard, I'm too kind. Have you noticed something right now? Even when we talk about our weaknesses, we try to disguise them as strengths. That's not random, that's a pattern. We like seeing ourselves from the angle of power, of capability and competence, of being a good person. But we rarely sit with our limitations and actual weaknesses in a clear, honest, and calm way. And here's the thing: no human being is built only from strengths, and no human being is just a collection of flaws. We are some sort of mix, like a salad. We are a combination of ability and limitation, of confidence and insecurity, of traits that move us forward and traits that quietly trap us. So today, instead of trying to fix anything, I want us to redefine something. Because most of the confusion we have about strengths and weaknesses and ourselves comes from how we define them. What is a strength, really? We often think a strength is a positive trait that's always good, but that's not accurate. A strength is a trait that produces a positive outcome in a specific context, not everywhere, not always, in a certain environment and context. Let me bring you an example. A company is choosing a team leader. Two candidates have made it to the final round. They walk into the conference room. There's a long table, a few senior managers sitting across from them, water glasses, laptops open, and quiet tension. The first candidate has excellent experience, strong history, and solid background. He starts presenting. His ideas are smart. His strategy makes sense, but his voice is slightly low. He hesitates a few times. When challenged, he explains carefully, maybe too carefully. Now, the second candidate, maybe slightly less experienced, but she sits upright. She speaks clearly. She makes eye contact. When a tough question comes up, she pauses briefly, analyzes, then answers directly. After both leave the room, the managers talk to each other. They don't just talk about knowledge, they talk about trust, presence, and power, about who feels ready to lead. And often, the one who seemed more confident gets selected. In that context, confidence was a strength because it produced a positive outcome. Now, take the same confident person and move her into a different situation. Imagine she's in a relationship. Her partner comes exhausted. Imagine she's in a relationship. Her partner comes home exhausted, not looking for solutions, not looking for analysis, just wanting to be heard. If she responds with the same decisive energy, analyzing the problem, offering quick solutions, pushing for action, her partner might feel unseen, unheard, not because she's wrong, because the context has changed. The same trait that created authority in a meeting can create distance in a relationship. So, a strength isn't absolute, it's contextual. So, then, what is a weakness? We usually define a weakness as something broken, a defect, a flaw in character. But what if that's incomplete? What if a weakness is simply a trait that is unregulated or misplaced? Take impatience. A lot of people label themselves as impatient. I hate waiting, I get frustrated easily, I lose my motivation so fast, and I want results more quickly. Underneath that impatience, there is often a fast mind, a mind that thinks ahead, a drive for progress lies in that mind. In a startup environment, in a competitive field, in a high performance settings, that speed can create momentum and progress. But now, picture the same person in a conversation with someone slower, a partner trying to explain how they feel, how was their day, a colleague who needs more time to process. Can we get to the point? Why is this taking so long? I really understand, but let's get to the point. Let's move on. Maybe they don't say it out loud, but their body shifts, their tone changes, and their eyes wander. And the other person feels frustrated and rushed. So maybe impatience isn't the flaw. Maybe it's speed without calibration. Weakness is often too much of something. Let's talk about overthinking. People criticize themselves for it constantly. I overanalyze everything all the time. I can't make decisions. I replay conversations in my head. But what lies under overthinking? Often, it's a strong analytical capacity, an ability to see multiple angles, to anticipate risk, to think deeply. That's incredibly valuable. When you're planning a major move, investing money, or making a life decision, it would be really important to think ahead. But when it crosses a certain line, analysis turns into paralysis. You imagine 10 possible failures. You wait for more certainty. You postpone action. What if this goes wrong? What if there is a better option? What if, what if I'm not ready yet? Days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, and the opportunity quietly passes. So again, the weakness wasn't the absence of ability, it was the overflow of it. A deeper layer. Where did these traits come from? Most of our traits were shaped long before we were conscious of them. Maybe as a child, you were praised for being responsible, so you learned to carry more than you share. Maybe you stayed quiet, you avoided conflict, so silence became your strategy. Maybe when you were assertive, people finally listened. So decisiveness became part of your identity. We didn't wake up one day and design ourselves. We adapted to our environment. Certain traits were rewarded, others were discouraged. Over time, they solidified. And now, years later, the same traits that once protected us sometimes limit us. That's not weakness, that's outloaded adaptation. Let's talk about the time dimension. Here's something most people miss. A trait can help you in the short term and hurt you on the long run. Take extreme self reliance. Short term, you look strong, independent, you take care of yourself. you are capable, people admire you. Midterm, you start feeling isolated. You struggle to ask for help. Relationships begin to grow slightly shallow. Long term, you carry everything alone. You feel lonely. Burnout creeps in quietly. The trait didn't suddenly become bad. It's just long term cost versus short term costs. That's why we can judge strengths and weaknesses only by immediate results. So, what's the real issue? The problem isn't which traits you have, the real issue is where do they show up, how intensely do they show up, and are they adjusted to the context? Maturity isn't about eliminating weaknesses, and it's not about inflating strengths. This is not personal growth. It's about awareness, then regulation, then integration. Awareness means you can say, my confidence can work great in leadership settings, but I need to soften myself in emotional conversations. Regulation means you can actually adjust, slow down your speed, dial back your intensity, and pause before reacting. Integration means your traits serve you instead of controlling you. Now, a quiet but important truth. Sometimes we blame ourselves for patterns that are simply misunderstood strengths, and sometimes we defend strengths that are quietly damaging our lives. If you keep experiencing the same conflicts, the same relationship breakdowns, the same career ceilings, it's worth asking, is there a trait that keeps showing up but not as an enemy, as a spy disguised as a positive trait, as a strength misapplied? Strength and weaknesses are not opposites. Very often, they share the same root. The difference is awareness and calibration. This is where real growth begins, not in becoming someone new, but in understanding who you really are with more precision. And the final thoughts. In the next episode, we'll explore what happens when a strength quietly turns against us, and how to recognize that turning point before it costs us something important. What we do in life echoes in eternity.